Hi there, this is Jeanette for Whimsy Stamps, and today's video is a card tutorial. I will be sharing with you how I created this card. I used some stamps and some dies from Whimsy Stamps to create this, and we'll be doing a little bit of watercoloring. To start off with, I took a piece of Canson watercolor paper, and I will leave all the links to everything I used below this video on YouTube and on my blog. And I inked up the stamp with Archival Jet Black ink. I'm just making sure everything is lined up, so I stamped that straight. And then I took some clear embossing powder and I sprinkled that over top, and I heat set it with my heat tool. And the reason I'm doing this is just so that I can create some raised lines. I mean, they're not raised by a whole lot, by a little bit. And that way when I'm watercoloring, it will be a little bit easier for me. I also stamped a mask using some post-it tape or post-it paper. This is a type that has adhesive on the entire back surface. So I tried that out to create a mask, and I'm just cutting that all out. And then I started coloring. I'm using the Zig Clear Color Real Brush markers, and I have a little bit of a learning curve with this, but I sort of figured out how I like to work with them. And what I do is I lay down the darker color, and then I sort of blend it with the lighter color, and then I take a fine paintbrush and then continue the blending. So there you see me doing that again. I lay in the darker, blend with the lighter, and then finish off the blend with my paintbrush. And I find this creates a nice look for me. This is sort of how I like to see my coloring. I like to see a little bit of shading there. And this was how I was able to accomplish it. I am not an expert by any means, but I'm getting there. It's a learning process, so you can learn along with me. So here I am going back to that sort of base color for the body, and I really like these brushes. The brush on the marker is very flexible, and it lends itself to some very nice blending. So you can see I'm blending that color with the light, and then I will take my paintbrush and just continue that blend. I work in small areas, and I try to work in areas that are not touching each other so I don't get too much bleeding with the color. So I'm just going to finish off the tail and then the nose. And I've tried to link the numbers that I'm using of the markers so that you can refer to that if you want to try out the same color combinations I used. So I'm moving along to the kite itself, and I'm using some reds here, and I will just blend those out. I did get a little bit of bleeding with that color, so I ended up sort of dabbing that with a paper towel. And usually you can get rid of anything that sort of bleeds over if you're careful with it and use a paper towel to sort of dab at it. Moving on to some yellow here. And having that embossed edge is just helping me keep the color pretty much where it needs to be. I really only had a problem with the red. And after the green, I'm going to move to some blue. And I'm really enjoying these brushes. I'm using them a little bit more now, and I'm getting more comfortable with them. So they're a fun change from Copic markers or Prismacolor pencils. So I encourage you to maybe get a few and try them out. They're fun. So then I just went in and added a little bit of sort of flesh color and a little bit of pink there just to make his cheeks a little bit rosy. I'm just making sure that's nicely blended, that I don't have any harsh lines. So then once it was completely dry, I put my mask over top, pressed it down, and I even cut out all those tiny little bits for the kite. Just trying to press those down. And then I used the pierced border trio dies, excuse me. I used them to cut a mask. So I'm using the lower part of the mask. This was cut on Eclipse paper. So I am using a stamp from the Up, Up and Away Clear stamp set. And I sort of want to make all these sort of rays coming up from the bottom of the card and sort of extending outwards. So that was some soft yellow. I stamped that. And then I re-inked it. And when I stamped it again, I realized that the stamp had picked up a little bit of that black ink from the mask, and I got a little bit of black ink on the side. But I decided just to move forward. Now I am making sure to clean off the stamp in between stamping it with ink. And you'll see in a minute what I did to sort of hide that little mistake. So I stamped with some Green Hills, and then I stamped with some soft pool. So now I have all the rays done. And then I took some of that soft pool and I'm just sponging along the sides, along the edges, and that really helped to cover up my little mistake there, because I really didn't want to start the card over again after I had finished doing all the watercoloring. Now I'm going to take the other part of the mask that I created with the die, and I'll put that on the top, and I will use some of that Green Hill to sponge the grass. Now because I cut this Eclipse tape on my Sizzix Big Shot, I think I lost I lost a little bit of the sort of adhesive, so it didn't stick down so well, so I had to sort of keep repositioning it. But in the end, I got it done. So now I'm just going to pull off all the little bits of masking paper. Then I took a black gel marker and darkened up the eyes. I took a white gel pen and added a few dots to his cheeks just to make everything pop a little bit. And then I decided I wanted to put a sentiment. So I used one from the Up, Up and Away Clear Stamp Edition set. And this set has some really, really fun, uplifting phrases. So I put that. And it didn't stamp totally well, I would say, just because the watercolor paper it's not completely smooth. So what I did is I just took that black gel pen and I filled in any areas that needed to be covered a little bit more. I took my white Sharpie, I added some more dots, and again this is helping camouflage that little mistake I made on the side where I got some ink on it. And now I'm just going to lay down some sequins, and that is further going to distract you from my little mistake on the card. So you don't always have to pitch a card if you make a mistake. You can always try to sort of find ways to sort of cover it up a little bit. So now I'm using my Zig glue pen and my Quick Stick, which is sort of like has a little bit of adhesive on the end so you can pick up the sequins. And I am just sort of scattering them here and there. And my card is done. So thank you very much for watching. I will have all the supplies listed below this video on YouTube as well as on my blog.